To another episode of the Shakedown. With me as always, my brethren, my colleague, my co-host, the one that they call Shazina, aka the A side. How are you doing, good sir?
Good, man.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh
Go
I forgot.
on.
I totally forgot.
Yes.
It's been so
Hello
long.
and welcome to another episode of the Shakedown. With me as always, my
happens.
brethren, my colleague, my co-host, the one that they call Shazina,
Can you hear this coming through, Shez? You can tell
the
I'm
A side.
rusty.
How are you doing?
Because your boy didn't close the bloody browser.
Do continue though, sir. Over my volume. How are you? Are you alive?
I am alive. I am good. I've been following you. I've been listening to what's been going on. Cameron, I feel like there's a lot to talk about.
I mean, there's some F1, you know what I mean? Like,
Some F1?
Lost 2 billion of market cap, nothing to see here. Do you know what I mean? Drive to Survive's coming out. Some dodgy things on the Ferrari, a wing that's upside down, and a bloody blown diffuser exhaust. A Mercedes with a gazillion seconds in the back pocket by dint of the sandbags. Nothing to see. Lewis Hamilton dated Kim K. Where do you want to start, chap? Nothing much to talk about in the next 25 to 30 minutes, eh? What are we doing here, chap?
Yikes.
Well, what's the biggest story for you, mate, in your fleeting contact with testing over the past? What are we now? Day 5, day 6 in total, including the private test.
Yeah. That's right, isn't it? What's been the biggest thing? Look, I think for me the biggest thing, as always, is going to be what all of the changes that have come in for this year are actually going to mean for what we see on track. And Cameron, I think I've probably drifted quite a bit. We talked about this a while ago, I think, before testing really started, and I was pretty excited at the time because I thought we were talking about overtakes happening in like all manner of places and cat and mouse and drivers having to play around with overboosts and overtakes, and I thought it was going to be really interesting. And then the reality of it, obviously we haven't seen the reality of it just yet, but the omens from testing and some of the quotes that have been coming out from some of the drivers aren't filling me with a huge amount of optimism. And I've constantly needed people to tell me I'm wrong, and that actually I just need to wait. But that nagging feeling that things are not going to be all right on the night can't be dismissed. What about you?
I mean, let's talk to the rules and regs in the first instance. Have you read the Matt Bishop article where he insinuates that F1 fans and stands called RH and Max Verstappen evangelists alike are all just allergic to change, and that change in F1 has been the oldest story in history. He cites 1991, not a dissimilar circumstance, 2014, I want to say 2022, but in the end it all converges on racing. I mean, we need change sometimes, don't we, Shez? Sometimes it will be all right, not all right est on the night, but I think it will be all right on the night when they start racing, surely.
I mean, surely is a big term. It's a lot of, we're hitting and hoping a little bit, aren't we, with that sort of terminology. You don't know it's going to be all right. And there's a certain level of fatalism to that, I guess, in what I'm saying. But F1 and the FIA are certainly going to be thinking, look, we're just too big for this to go wrong. But is that enough? Is an organisation and the hopes and dreams that everything rests on enough for it to just go right?
No one's too big to fail in F1. I mean, I feel like it's already going wrong since F1 on the Nasdaq has already lost 2 billion worth of market capitalisation. Here's where I don't think it's the rules, Shez. I think the biggest problem for which F1 will need to reconcile is the dominant incoming of that Mercedes and that compression ratio engine until race 14. What is the point? I think George Russell, I'm convinced now more than ever that George and Kimi are going to be a gazillion seconds down the road, and the rest are just playing for third and fourth. Genuinely, and hearing the guys and girls over at the race talk about not necessarily the maximal velocity of the Mercedes, but just how balanced it looked, how accessible the upper echelons of the Mercedes performance curve, and then you overlay with those the fact that they're sandbagging potentially and the compression ratio 18-1 whilst they're out on track. Mate, listen, I think it's a problem. And the consistency, the almost metronomic consistency of George when he's been doing race simulation runs at Houston. I think we have ourselves a King George shaped problem, mate. Genuinely, I'm concerned. That's my concern, Jez, if I'm honest with you, mate.
Yeah, okay. So there are a heap of different tenets to talk about here, right? So fundamentally, there's two big issues that can happen with any new rule set, right? The first is that one team heads off into the distance, and we have real dominance. The other side of it is that fundamentally the rules don't allow good racing, right? So you're positing that on the latter, that the racing will probably be all right, but on the former, you're worried that the race that there will be one team that's headed off into the distance 4 seconds ahead of everybody else. Not quite 4 seconds, but not far off. Is that kind of what I'm reading?
Yeah, correct. But your second contradicts your first, does it not, Shez? How can the racing be good if you've got two cars? If this is 1992 all over a sudden again, with Nigel Mansell running down the road because his car is so bloody quick, surely that's not good racing, is it? Not to the part-time casual.
Sure, that's true, but that doesn't reckon with the fact that what we're trying to say here is that the Mercedes, at least part of the reason it's as good as it is because it's got a head start on the compression ratio nonsense, which may or may not come to an end. And we probably should talk about that at some point. But
Go on. Why don't we talk about it now? Double click on that for me, Shez, because I was under the impression that the FIA had released a statement. So in the first instance, Red Bull Ford decided that they weren't going to provide the supermajority, that they were going to veto it because they had it too. And then it's my understanding the Red Bull Ford couldn't run the compression ratio trick reliably. They said, you know what, we're going to veto it. We're going to join the supermajority and we're going to rule this out. And then there was going to come the rule change, but they can't change the rules because we're only like 1 day away from Australia. You know what I mean? How like these teams, Mercedes in particular, have been injecting capital investment anywhere up to 120 million worth of R&D per year for the last 5 years into these engines. You're going to make them change it and the PU provided to Williams and McLaren and Alpine within a couple of days. Yeah, of course. No, they couldn't do it. And then the FI statement came out yesterday. I can't remember.
Yesterday.
Yeah. And they said that they're going to change the way that they test for compression ratios as of race 14. Like, what? By which time, of course, George Russell. Of course, it's still going to be competitive. Shez. Like, what am I saying?
But you think that let's wind back a little bit, right? Because you've talked about the amount of R&D that's gone into this compression ratio. This has been like a pet hobby of mine, so I've got loads to say about it. But what do you think? I'm flipping this back on you a little bit. What do you think? Do you think that you've got a rule written explicitly saying that a particular condition needs to be met in a particular environment, and because one group or a group of manufacturers that have not been able to see the loophole within that, we're going to change the whole rule. Let me just quote Steve Nielsen quickly. This is Steve Nielsen from Alpine. He said, people invest an awful lot of time and money, and particularly money, into this in good faith. And if suddenly we're going into a world where everything can be challenged, even though it's clearly written for any reasons other than safety reasons, I think that's a whole new world which we've not been in before. Because that's what this comes down to. We can sit here and talk about it's cheating and the rules say you have to be at this level the whole time throughout the whole race. But at the moment, the whole compression ratio thing is conjecture. We do not know that Mercedes has a different compression ratio when they're out and about because nobody can prove it.
How sway? Didn't the FIA dude come out a couple of weeks ago and say, well, didn't the dude come out a couple of weeks ago and say that we know at least one team?
How have they shown that? How have they shown it?
Just can't. I mean, no F1 smoke without F1 fight. I get what
Sure.
you're saying.
So-
You've got
so
to
I-
evidence it, but
Exactly.
generally accepted consensus now.
So basically, what you're doing essentially, because no one's actually in a dynamic state proven that the compression ratio goes to 18-1 or higher in any Mercedes power unit. What you're doing is changing the rule based on conjecture. Now, what could happen is that, look, we're raising the compression ratio test to testing it rather than ambient to 130 degrees Celsius, right? Now, what if that's not the temperature at which the change occurs?
Yeah, so it beyond the FIA's head is what? This is you know what, Shez? I don't know how me and you always come to argue about the multitudinous ineptitudes of the FIA. Bloody write the rules properly and then we're not even having this conversation.
Okay. Which bit of it is ineptitude? Is it the rule as written, or is it the fact that they're now trying to change it?
You know, I don't think, if we understand that one of the central tenets, to use your word, Shez, of the regulatory body that is the FIA, isn't just to safeguard all related parties. It is to level the competitive landscape, if indeed it needs levelling. Look, 18-1 is chaos, mate. If there's no other PU that can do that, then we're looking at a two-tier championship out the back, and nobody needs that, least of all the commercial rights holder who are looking to position themselves for a sale. Shez, we need racing, mate. We got decent racing last year. And they always do this. They always go and change the bloody rules. And then all of a sudden, for the next 3 years, we just get a procession because one or two teams have nailed the rules better than everybody else. This is nonsense, Shez. Can we be? Liam Parker wants to talk about content. Content. How about you focus on the sport and make sure it's competitive? I get your point, Shez. I get your point. Maybe they need more evidence. But again, it's generally accepted that Mercedes have found something that's a bit tricky that's going to give them anywhere between 20 and 25 brake horsepower worth of advantage. That, Shez, is a lot. Do you want to talk about bringing the sport into disrepute and having the brand new Gen Z bods who joined after watching the fancy sexy cuts of Drive to Survive? How about you have all of them dial out en masse, because it turns into 2000 to 2004 Michael Schumacher settings where you watch the first 5 minutes because the start's interesting and come back and watch the last 5. Shez, what
but that's it's not the same as that, though. Look, in 2002 to 2004, Ferrari had a big fat veto. Anytime someone said that they wanted to do something that Ferrari didn't like, Ferrari went straight in and said, "Nah, we're not doing that. You want bespoke Bridgestones for your Ferrari? Here you go, sir. Have them." Right? But that's not what we're talking about here. What you're talking about is reality abutting with physics, right? We still do not know whether or not lifting the test to 130 degrees Celsius is actually going to catch out Mercedes. We don't know that. So they can change the test. They could have changed the test right at the beginning in October, and Mercedes still wouldn't have fallen foul of it. Right. So actually, what is the threshold that you then
they want to do? I get the point that you're making, Shez. They can't get rid of the ambient test. We've got to do both. They have to do both.
But even if they did both, you might still not catch them because you don't know the threshold at which they are making a change, if they are making a change, because no one's been able to show that they've actually made a change.
Mate, they need to do. Honestly, chap, this is ridiculous. You're telling me what we're outlining here is that the FIA have written a rule that they don't know how to police. Is that what we're saying? It's
the rule that they have had for compression ratio since the beginning of time.
It's insane, fella. Police the. If you have a rule, then you better know how to police it. I can't legislate for the
FIA. Fine. Or don't have the rule. I totally agree with you. But they had a reason for having that rule in there in the first place. They were trying to make it easier for new power unit manufacturers to be able to build a competitive power unit.
This is nonsense, mate. I'm telling you. Can we just burn the FIA to the ground? Like, this is nonsense, chap. I get what you're saying, and the rule is strict, but do whatever you need to do, FIA, to institute.
Yes, but nobody can answer the question what it is they should do. That's the problem. Everyone wants to say they should change the rule. I've heard this so many times, but nobody can tell me. And this is a James O'Brienism from me. What is it they should do? Phone in with the answer if you know.
Well, if no one in the FA, Tom Barsis or whatever his name is, if they don't know, then how are we expected to fix it? Or even, you know what it sounds like that rule is? That rule is an incentive for the other teams not named Mercedes to do what Mercedes are doing and catch up. That's what needs to happen here, chap.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's a leveling the competitive landscape.
100%.
That's what needs to happen. And I think they'll do
100%.
it. I think they'll do it because you can hear in the tone of Frederick Vasseur that it wasn't necessarily, they weren't, their intention wasn't to have Mercedes banned before Australia. All of the team principals, the protagonists being Mekis and Frederick Vasseur, they've come out and said, well, they're not seeking to ban anyone. This isn't a Snitch O'Houlihan, nor is it Benedict Arnold. What they're looking to do is just seek clarity so that they can, in brackets unsaid, so that they can then go and do it as well.
But just that supermajority point, are Ferrari still part of that? Didn't they say on Friday they were no longer protesting it?
Fred insinuated, didn't say in explicit terms like that, but insinuated that they're not seeking for Mercedes to get done over. What they're seeking for is clarity. In brackets, so that they can then go and do the same thing. It's
if they've figured it out, if they've worked out what it is that Red Bull powertrains
and
couldn't
run it reliably.
Well, this
Mate,
is it.
I will say this, chap, that Mercedes, again, we've seen a couple of very consistent race simulations from George Russell yesterday. He was metronomic almost. Seeing the bloody F1 data, the graphic, and the way that that Mercedes W17 is able to
deploy.
Oh my gosh. The torque, the deployment, whatever it is that gives it NOS coming out from the apex of these turns. Mate, that is it looks like it's a different formula of car. And that's in the hands of Kip, mate. They need to do the Shez. They need to do so. I get it. I understand the purist perspective that, listen, if it's F1, if somebody's done something ingenious like Braun did in 2009, that you've got to, you know what I mean? That's to be incentivized.
But this isn't just being purist, right? And notwithstanding the fact that there are 4 teams on the grid that run that power unit, one of which at least will be competitive at the front of the grid, we'd think, right? Like McLaren have won the last 2 World Constructors' Championships. It's not like they don't know how to build a competitive car. But that notwithstanding, the only way reliably to create a level playing field is that you just give everyone the same car. Is that what we're talking about?
No, we're not talking. No balance of performance round here, chap. That's not Formula 1.
See, but did you see the inherent?
I see the hypocrisy,
contradiction in what you're trying to achieve.
I hear it. It's a very fine line that we need to traverse here, though, Shez, because people will dial out. I say again, for the avoidance of doubt, over the past 4 weeks, Liberty Media's F1, the sports franchise that is Formula 1, listed on the Nasdaq, has lost circa $2 billion worth of US dollars, mate. That's not
okay. So let's talk about why that's happened, right? Let's talk about like why we are in this mess in the first place, because the technical regulations have come about from a really F1 key place, basically, haven't they? They've come from a place where the FIA said, we want to have new power unit manufacturers in because we need to be able to safeguard our future. And they came up with a power unit formula that on paper is simpler than it was before,
on paper,
right? And it also pays homage to what the manufacturers want in the real world. They want more electrical power, more hybridization, less internal combustion engine, right? That's what they want. And it drew in Audi, it got Honda back, it drew Ford into the fold as well. Brilliant, job done. But now what they've done, and who was it that was saying this? Pierre Vacher, talking about patches on patches on patches. Because what you've done is created this formula, a power unit formula, and then you've had to create rules around it, chassis and aero regulations that allow that central tenet to work. And everything else is compromised from that point forward, right? If they had thought about this more holistically in terms of how the power unit and the aero and all of that fit together at inception, rather than coming from a place where this is what we're going to do with the power unit, this is what we're going to do with the hybrid element, and then build everything else around that, leading on to the silly active aero, which is not an overtaken aid, but it's just there to allow the cars to go down a straight, and then have an overtake mode in a power unit where you can't recoup enough energy in the first place. All of that comes from the fact that they got their power unit formula wrong, I think.
True.
That's what we're trying to wind ourselves back from. And if you're gonna lay something at the FIA's door, that is where it is. All of the competitive nonsense, the fact that Max and Lewis and Fernando, like the 3/4 of the world champions we have on the grid, are out there saying this is a load of nonsense. The reason we're having all of that, partly at least, is because of where these guys came from in the first place.
Fair cop. They are. This is the fine line of weaponizing monetization to which we speak. Abyss, by the way, mate, you clearly weren't watching earlier. Go and watch the stream earlier, on which I put the bloody display, courtesy of F1 Analytics, of Kimi Antonelli gapping the rest of the field. And again, it's tech. If that information is right, I don't want to hear anything about hyperbole. In fact, put a pin in that, Abyss, and we'll talk Australia. To your point, Shez, your point is a good one, but this is the fine line that they traverse, right? Seeking financial upside, all the while trying to stay true to the sport. Now, would I argue that there is greater reward as far as growing the sport into new growth markets, North Asia, of course, the States, by having an Audi and a Cadillac F1 initially, powered by Ferrari? I think it's big, mate. I think Cadillac F1 have got a PR team that will do gangbuster things, just like Red Bull have done, taking cars to new people, new attention dollars all around the world. I think Cadillac F1 are up to something. The fact that they did the bloody advert during the Super Bowl, etc. I think there is a. I think maybe the juice is worth the squeeze, but it's not the what, Shez, it's the hows, right? I think we've got to talk about the biggest elephant in the room isn't necessarily the PU stuff and that they incentivized Audi and Cadillac and all these new buds. And Red Bull Ford, of course. I think the elephant in the room is the rule and the active aero and the boost and the overtake. It's too complex. It's too un-F1 per Max Verstappen. Talk to Max Verstappen because he wasn't happy. He says, we don't want Formula E. They've got their series. This is anti-F1. Very damaging that from the 4-time champion, Aishat.
Okay, let's talk about that because I come at this from two different points, right? There's what the drivers are getting out the cars, like their enjoyment of driving these cars, yeah, and then there's the how complex is it, how difficult is it to make this an understandable product, not for you and me. I'm struggling a lot of the time to work out what the heck is going on.
Massively.
Right, so to expect a casual who's watching it like once or twice every 6 months to understand why someone has gone past somebody else is really difficult. But let's deal with that first side of it first, right? I have to say, I'm not massively fussed about whether or not the drivers are actually enjoying driving around or not. The biggest problem with it is that Max might go, right, I've had enough of this, I'm going to leave. But if he is in a car that is actually competitive, is able to fight for wins, is able to fight for a championship, then actually, he might not enjoy doing it, but he'll carry on doing it because it allows him to showcase how good he is, and he likes the thrill of competition. So them enjoying driving the cars isn't a big deal for me. If we had cars that the drivers enjoyed, then we would basically have normally aspirated engines, which is a win, 100%, love that. And they would be driving flat out all the time, which sounds great. But actually, when everyone's driving flat out, nothing happens. All of the overtakes happen in the pits because you have no way of overtaking on track because the fastest car will be at the front and then the next fastest car will be next along and the next. That's not a way to create a racing series where it's actually enjoyable. So what the drivers want out the car, I'm not that fussed about. But the other side of it, that how easy is it to explain? I had somebody on our channel that if someone fairly prominent, a big F1 media outlet, and I couldn't understand what he was trying to say about something pretty fundamental to going down a straight. And like, like, I don't think I'm Albert Einstein, but I also don't think I'm Donald Duck. So I feel like I should have understood what was going on. But I still find it really difficult. I don't know about you.
They don't help us, mate. I've been watching testing and streaming it, and up until now, I can't see a graphic that shows me the state of the battery. I can't see a graphic that shows me. They keep flashing him up as PowerPoints to explain it, but I can't see a graphic that shows me whether active aero is on or off or partial. I can't see any of the proper graphics requisite to enjoying and explaining what's going on. I think it's going to be a problem, mate, unless they get a move on now. Per Pablo Elizalde of Motorsport magazine, I think we might have ourselves a big problem here. If you can't, how do I know whether Max has just been a genius and overtaken Charles Leclerc, or whether it's something to do with one of their batteries, or whether it's active aero, or
if they've broken down?
How do I know unless they put the proper graphics on the screen? And I don't think they will, mate, because this is F1 South Acura Legend. The question is, will Mercedes beat the customer teams? Will fuel make the difference? And I don't think they will turn up the engine first. I think they'll turn it up just enough. So in fact, they'll want to do the one-man Fangio thing, right, and win by the smallest distance possible. Abyss is really key. Let me talk to Abyss again very quickly. Overreacting. Listen, I defer to those who were at the track. Mention no names, the boys and girls over at the race. Scott Mitchell-Malman, Ed Straw, both of whom said, not just did that Mercedes look quick, but it looked like it can access the upper echelons of its performance curve with ease. It looks balanced. Go and check the metric. Sometimes you got to look at some evidence. We don't want to be F1 abbots of unreason over here. Yeah, check the evidence and defer to the experts who were at the bloody track. To that point, Shez, I want to ask you about Scuderia Ferrari. Is this their year, sir? It feels a little bit different, like Lewis Hamilton is last of the late breakers per the bloody graphic that we spoke to earlier on. It feels like Lewis Hamilton is more confident, talking about his DNA is now in this car. Also, they've got the bloody blown exhaust diffuser thing, reminiscent of Sebastian Vettel's 2010 car. So too have they got this innovative rotary wing, which looks like a rear wing upside down, maximising the DRS in inverted commas portion of the active aero. Are they Tifosi getting too excited, Shez? It's past prologue that Ferrari are going to drop the ball again, and not to mention the bloody start that looked incredible, reminiscent of 05 Fernando Alonso and his mild 7 Renault. Talk to me, Shez. Are people getting too gassed, or do you think Scuderia Ferrari are really in this thing this year?
How do you want me to answer that?
Mate, however which way you want. That's a good question, mate. Right.
It's same story, different day, isn't it? Like, it's a huge amount of hype. I'm hearing from people that actually it's not Mercedes that need to throw out the sandbags. It's Ferrari. They've got loads of stuff. That's why they're not protesting Mercedes, because hell, they don't need to. And they've got little things in every area, haven't they? So they've got a smaller turbo, so they can take the slow corners in a higher gear and still recharge as much. Ooh, sounds tasty to me. And then they've got this. They've got a little blown beam wing diffuser thing, as you say, a la Red Bull 2010. And then this flippity floppity wing. And then you've got Lewis Hamilton saying, I quote again, we just have less downforce, but you still have to discover the grip. There's still so many elements completely under our control. It's just different and new, and I still find it quite fun. I haven't heard Lewis talking like that in a really long time. Yes, perhaps it's a second coming. But look, to the Lewis side of things, I'm still worried, because I heard Ed Straw and John Noble saying that when they see Leclerc going around, they see Lewis going around, they still feel a bit more comfortable that Leclerc has the car underneath him and Lewis is struggling. You see how many lockups he had into turn 10 today. It's it's all well and good. I'm glad he thinks he can catch the car. That's great, but some more lap time would be nice too.
Yeah. And to that point, Shez, that's a very nice, sexy segue. Kim K, Lewis Hamilton. There's two schools of thought, is there, and I think I know which one you sit in. The Lewis Hamilton, a happy Lewis Hamilton, is a fast Lewis Hamilton, even at the age of 41 years old. And if Kim K, dating her, can provide him with that, then Houston, we have ourselves a Hamilton-shaped problem in 2026. The other school of thought goes something like this: that the McLaren engineers would always say that they could tell when he was having struggles, difficulty, that there are fissures in his relationship with Nicole Scherzinger because he was slow. And that if past his prologue, anybody that rubs shoulders with the Kardashian clan, mention no names, again, existing in the sports athlete space. If we're talking about Reggie Bush, if we're talking about Odell Beckham Jr., if we're talking about Chris Humphries, Lamar Odom, okay, so that's not Kim, that's her sister. But if you're an athlete and you enter the Kardashian blast radius, then there is only one outcome, and that is disappearing into obscurity shortly after the relationship ends. Is Kim K, Shez, let me ask the question this way: will Kim K be positive for Sir Lewis Hamilton in 2026?
Why are you doing this to me? Like,
it's a story, chap. I wouldn't. We don't make the news over here. We just break it. Do you know what I mean? I would love not to.
This has been so meme worthy. It's been great. Yeah, look, I can only go on the evidence of what I've seen before. Like when he gets into the relationship, it's great, isn't it? Like you get 2007, you get 2008, you get even 2009 was a mega Lewis season. But when it all hits the fan, you get 2011, and that was no fun for anybody. Who's he? Yeah, he wasn't slow that season, I don't think. But
it was.
It wasn't a. Yeah, but maybe he doesn't need that. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we get rocket powered Lewis for a season. They break up, but he's done everything he needs to do by then anyway. He can jog off into the distance, into the sunset happily.
Mate,
or unhappily, as the case may be. I don't know.
Oh, here he's hoping. And a reason, a lot of people out there in the chat saying, "Oh, Cameron, stop talking about Kim K. Why do you always want to talk about Kim K?" How can I be invested in Lewis Hamilton's well-being and him wanting him to do well on track and not talk to Kim K? This is ridiculous to think that these two things are some mutually exclusive entities. If past his prologue, we saw it back in 2010 with Nicole Scherzinger, and I would argue from a distance, I know nothing, but from a distance, that potentially Kim K has a poorer track record of impacting sports athletes' careers to the downside than does Nicole Scherzinger. So that's my concern. And if people out there want to, well, it's just private life and blah, 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 blah. Well, Lewis is a sensitive soul, and his private life, if past his prologue, will always drip feed down, depending whether it's going well or going badly, into his sporting life, and therein lies the issue. Let me ask you very quickly about Red Bull. In fact, we'll take McLaren and Red Bull Ford together. Tell me what you think about Red Bull Ford, mate. There's been a lot of talk around them, around some of the things, the sexy things that Max Verstappen's doing, the downshift, taking turn 10 in first gear, double blipping the downshift with a view to spike the rate at which the MG UK charges. McLaren planted Oscar Piastri super quick today. Do you think either one of them have a chance of contending for the championship, constructors or drivers, in 2026?
I think Max has got his head around this quite quickly. He might not enjoy driving these cars. I think Mekies said that, didn't he, this week? Max, he has zero concern that Max is going to leave, and he's probably going to master these rules better than anybody else, and that's great. But he needs to have the substrate on which to work with as well. And he might have some fun driving techniques in order to do that. But is that in and of itself going to be enough? And I think McLaren are in a pretty good position in that they have the power unit they want. They'll, ostensibly they have no input into it, but actually in reality they obviously will have had some input into how that fits into the back of their car, and they probably have the best aero department on the grid right now. last 2 seasons kind of bear that out. So I think of the two, I'd bank on McLaren. It's difficult because every single one of those teams says we're fourth fastest.
Let's
So
go.
but Red Bull especially have really gone out there and said, yeah, we're nowhere near the others. But then I heard Lando saying something similar as well about McLaren. It's difficult to know where they actually stand. But I think behind Mercedes, McLaren are probably best placed to do something. What do you reckon?
I don't, mate. I hope desperately that Red Bull Ford car is good enough for Max to do some damage, because I think, I mean, if there's somebody who's going to be able to outperform and bridge a material gap as far as these vehicles, then it might be Max more than that. At this point, you know what?
Maybe.
Even if I don't know, Chubb, it's so hard to predict. There are so many unknowns. It's going to get attacked. Maybe Max can do something. I mean, he's been fastest doing it through the speed traps sometimes, 337 kilometers and all this going. So, or maybe that's just a misnomer and I'm being misdirected willfully. You know what I mean? I don't know, mate. As we round third, let me ask you this question. We can't talk about big stories without talking about the last airbender, Adrian Newey. I thought, Shares, that Adrian Newey, even though he was only starting in March, even though he's only had 9-10 months worth of runway, I thought, given the fact that Adrian Newey is responsible for 13 drivers and 12 constructors, I thought that Adrian Newey was going to build himself an aerodynamic beast that offset, at the very least, some of the underperformance and overweight that is the Honda PU. It turns out, if rumour is to be believed, if Lance Stroll is to be trusted, that they're 4.5 seconds, or at least as of the last test, 4.5 seconds adrift from the race lead, 37% of which is attributable to the Honda power unit. The rest, the other 63%, is because car is dodgy, the gearbox is super unreliable. Alonso was parked out on track today. Square this Adrian Newey circle for me, Shez. Is this the worst car that Adrian Newey's ever built so early on into 2026?
It's so tricky, isn't it? Because look, history isn't on the side of someone that says that Adrian Newey isn't going to work this out, because other than Leighton House, he's won a championship or two at every single team that he has turned up and designed for. But I definitely hear the Adrian Newey doomsayers out right now, because he's taken a lot on his own shoulders, right? He's technical partner or whatever he's called. He's got shares in the team. He's now made himself team principal as well. So he suddenly hung a lot around his own neck. Did you see him and Loro and Enrico Cardile having a little chat, and everyone trying to work out, lip reading what they were actually saying? It was brilliant. But he has a lot of Honda to overcome. 37% in a power unit dominated regulation set. That's quite a lot to overcome, right? And you know, I've had to argue with my own co-host pretty vehemently. He decided to put it all on Adrian Newey. He said, look, he's the team principal. He's the technical director. You said he was going to sweep all before him. It's all his fault. And Honda are saying that the size zero nonsense, it's his fault. They can't get the engine to work. First of all, I think that's total gaslighting. I think that Honda are obviously going to say that. They're a big fat corporate machine and they don't want to look silly. But history isn't really on their side, because they did the same thing in 2015. They turned up with an overweight, underpowered, huge power unit and then blamed it all on McLaren, saying that your size zero concept is strangling our engine. Looks like history is repeating itself again. But yes, I do think that Adrian Newey has something to do with it. But what you're saying about when he turned up is important. He said in March when he turned up, our tools are not good enough. Like, I'm having to recalibrate the wind tunnel. I'm having to recalibrate the CFD and the driver in loop simulator. None of this is stuff that's going to suddenly come on tap straight away. And I don't want to make excuses, but these are realities in Formula One. And then on top of that, the team principal thing. Well, he was only made team principal in like November, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it wasn't very long ago. To hang the whole shebang on him, I think is a bit unfair. And if you were going to put money on any team finding their way out of it, even if that means again ditching Honda and finding somebody else,
Like Mercedes. I mean, it's not like it's shares chaos, mate. So the F1 sliding
but does it not feel like Lawrence Stroll is the new Ron Dennis? He's turned into Ron Dennis. All the gear, sometimes no idea.
Mate, you know the joke is, Shez, I can't help. It's testament to just how bad the situation is that I feel like Lawrence Cutt's a very empathetic figure at the moment. Imagine you'd invested. So Aston Martin look under the car company, going through all types of severance and restructure. That's your Exhibit A. Your Exhibit B is this, mate. Imagine you'd invested 250 million worth in a brand new factory, another 50 million worth in a wind tunnel, brand new one, only to have the guy that you've just given equity to and made team principal de facto come over and say, listen, all this money's good. Yeah, you can invest all the money you want and capital. That's perfect. But what you need to do to win races and championships, therefore, is hire and keep good people. Can you imagine Lawrence Stroll looking at his bloody balance sheet and Adrian Newey says this, that we don't have the right people in place? What are you talking? We just hired Andy Cowell, mate. What are you talking about?
Sacked him as well, though, didn't they?
Insane, or moved him on so he can handhold HRC and Koji Watanabe. I think this is the biggest story of the year, mate. That not that Adrian Newey is taking his time to be expected. You know what I mean? You can't feed the 5,000 in 9 months. Everything takes a bit of time in Formula One, but that he's so far behind. The irony that you got Lance Stroll talking about the underperformance of the car. Oh my gosh, I can just imagine Adrian, what he really wants to say in their meetings with Lance Stroll. He's got to be looking at Lance Stroll thinking, what, huh?
But he's got Fernando in the other car as well. Like, I wanted to work with Fernando for so long. Fernando's saying that the chef could drive his car. And I don't think that he's talking just about the fact that the cars are a bit slow. I also think that he genuinely thinks my car is so slow, the chef could probably drive it. I don't know. I don't know, Cameron. Like, look, if there's a silver bullet in Formula One, like in the last, 30 years, Adrian Newey has been that silver bullet. And if he can't make this work, nobody can.
True. This is true. He's as near a guarantee of success, if such a thing exists in Formula One. I think it's a big story, mate. To see him just there.
No, I don't disagree.
To see him there rubbing his head and the car stopped out on track. They get late to the first test. It's just like, mate, it's and the car looks so bloody sexy in the first. It's everybody's like, whoa, it's an Adrian Newey rocket ship. He's been ambitious with the bloody suspension front and rear. Look at all the gills. There's a proper Adrian Newey car. It looks like the Green Bull, an extension of everything that he's designed in the past with Red Bull. Only to see on the timesheet 4.5 seconds. Lance Stroll was not lying. Chap.
Clearly just needs a rotary rear wing. If he'd done that, it'd have been gravy.
I know, and stayed with Mercedes. Oh, the humanity. Let me ask you this finally. I want to just ask you about Lewis very quickly. I know we touched on it earlier. Do you think Lewis Hamilton wins races in 2026? And do you think he can hold a candle to one shot? Your guy, Mr. Modern Day Journalese, aka Charles Leclerc.
Do you still think that?
We can talk about it. Maybe we're running out of time. Of course, he makes mistakes, chap. He's quick, but he does make mistakes.
Maybe not today. I just haven't got the energy. Can he? Yes, I think he can win races. I still have some belief that if he has what he wants underneath him, then he can be formidable. Yeah.
Oof. Very precise with your words there, mate. Formidable. I feel like we had this very same conversation this time last year, right? And the general consensus was that, yeah, Lewis can win races. My problem is that he's got Charles Leclerc in the opposite car, mate. And so fast is that dude. When you're 41 years old and you lose a tenth or two of pace, the person who you do not need in the opposite car, the other red car with the yellow badge and black prancing horse atop, He's modern day Jean Alesi. That's even if you can get rocket fuel starts and go from P9 to P1, I think it's still. I think it's
a tough gig. I'm not gonna
lie. You wouldn't want to Faust the impact that Lewis Hamilton's entered. Imagine if he'd stayed at Mercedes. Yes. Do you remember, very quickly, mate, as you round fourth, do you remember when Toto said, I'm not surprised that Lewis wants to leave or that he would leave and go to Ferrari? It's a bucket list item, but I'm surprised at the timing. Do you remember when he said that, Shez?
Yeah, but I wasn't surprised at the timing, ultimately. Were you?
Mate.
He wasn't going to get a seat for 26, man. Let's be honest.
Shez?
I don't think he was.
I don't know. I don't want to do the Monday morning quarterback thing. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's a genius with the benefit of hindsight now that Mercedes look like abyss. They've built themselves a rocket ship of a car. Shazino, you're an absolute legend. I appreciate you to the moon and back, as I do everyone in the chat. We'll go live at some point tomorrow for testing at some point. Your boy might need to get some shut eye. By the way, Shazino, if you enjoy his god tier market leading purple sector Monaco 88 level F1 insight, then go over to Tired GP. That's the pick to click. Again, him with his cousin talking all kinds of stuff, F1 stuff, an argument and sports debate. Do you know what I mean? That you won't get anywhere else. I will leave a link in the description. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, like and share. If you are listening on a podcast, follow and 5 stars. From Shez on the right hand side of your screen, I, as always, have been Cameron CC. Between now and next time, remember to look but never stare.